So, things have been pretty interesting. I can't believe this is only part one of two. Like, there's more. There's more to come. Susie Wiles, for some reason, decided to do a profile with Vanity Fair. And she's been getting the expected backlash for this from the Trump base. That being, why did you go on a why did you let a liberal outlet interview you? And I have to be honest with you, this whole thing has been very interesting because I can't figure out why she decided to do this. It has not been received well. She did, what was it, 11 interviews? Yeah, 11 interviews. She. I just. What was she thinking? Hold on. Okay, I don't know. That was weird. YouTube just yelled at me about my stream, but it seems okay. She seems alive. Anyways, what I was saying, what I was saying. Susie Wiles decided to do this series of interviews with Vanity Fair. And we've got some interesting stuff. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it is a lot. It is a lot. Oh man, is it a lot? Yeah. Click here to read part two. Oh, okay, part two. So part two is out, I think. Yeah. Okay. Good God. Oh man, it's so much, dude. It's just so much. um, my first thoughts on this, aside from why, I mean, I assume. So here's okay. Here's where I feel weird about this because I don't want to get too like conspiracy theory on it, but I feel like it's too simple almost that the most competent person in Trump's orbit decided to do one of the least competent interviews, basically shit on everybody in the administration, and then when the article comes out, denies that they did that, has everybody coming to their defense. You have people who expect there to be some real tidal waves when it comes to this, and I guess I see that from the point of view of the base that has been having an interesting reaction to it. But I don't expect Trump to do anything rash. I don't expect him to get rid of Susie Wiles or anything. I think that he does know that would not work out for him. I do think that Susie Wiles is one of the only competent people in the administration, but I don't know how Trump handles being called someone who has the personality of an alcoholic. I feel like that's not something he would take well. Also, Stephen Miller, the zealot. Yeah, that's pretty appropriate. I honestly forget this guy is even there. But I have been interested in Susie Wiles basically ever since Trump shouted her out at the um, campaign celebration speech that he did when he won the actual, when he won the actual election. He's he was shouting out Susie Wiles while he was on stage, and ever since then, I have been a little interested in her because, first of all, any woman who willingly puts herself in Trump's vicinity is fascinating to me because why? But also, I just, I don't, it's, there are few people that Donald Trump talks about and seems to have a genuine level of admiration for and respect for, and Susie Wiles seems to be one of those people, from what I can tell. And I do think, so I do wonder, like, how does this go over behind the scenes? I don't know. So I'm not an enabler. I'm also not a bitch. I guess time will tell whether I've been effective. Yeah, I mean, I think that God, I don't know. Like the things she said about Vance. We often spoke on Sundays after church. Wiles, an Episcopalian, calls herself Catholic Light. One time we spoke while she was doing her laundry in her Washington, D.C. rental. Trump, she told me, has an alcoholic's personality. Vance's conversion from never Trumper to MAGA acolyte, she said, has been sort of political. The vice president, she added, has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vogt, architect of the notorious Project 2025 and head of the Office of Management and Budget, is a right wing absolute zealot. When I asked her what she thought of Musk reposting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, okay. She replied, I think that's when he's microdosing. Um she says she doesn't have first-hand knowledge. Also, not to be that bitch, but she's kind of terrifying. Can we all admit that? Like, this is a terrifying picture. This is a terrifying picture. Who signed off on this? Oh my god, look at her. And those eyebrows. I'm not even like a makeup person. Like, I don't wear any makeup. And I don't do my eyebrows. I don't do any of that. But oh my god. Even I would have to do something about my eyebrows if they looked like this. I don't know. That's crazy. Susie Wiles, the enforcer, the architect of President Donald Trump's 2024 election victory, now his White House chief of staff, is the daughter of the famous sportcaster Pat Summerall. As Wiles explains, her father was an alcoholic, so she knows how to deal with difficult men with big personalities. I make a specialty of it, she says with a laugh, as the crisis of Trump 2.0 pile up. From Signalgate to revenge. It's kind of crazy. Signalgate really just came and went, huh? Like, nothing actually happened there. Like, whatever I just said. Pete Hegseth is still in awe. Like, he's still working. We're still stuck with his drunk ass. Oh man, it's not looking great, boys. From Signalgate to revenge and retribution, to the Epstein files, to alleged war crimes on the high seas, Wiles has worked at the center of the storm, the Trump whisperer who sees it all. I am entering my 9th year altogether, my 5th year day to day, she says, of working with Trump, so it's hard to surprise me. Oh, brother. Wiles is the most powerful person in Trump's White House other than the president himself. Unlike any chief of staff before, she is a woman. Like, it is kind of crazy that Donald Trump was the one who put the first woman chief of staff in place here, but just goes to show you. sometimes representation isn't worth it. Oh man. In most White Houses, the chief of staff is first among a bunch of equals. She may be first with no equals. I don't think there's anybody in the world right now that could do the job that she's doing, Rubio told me. He called her bond with Trump an earned trust. Vance described Wiles' approach to the chief's job. There is this idea that people have that I think was very common in the first administration, he told me, that their objective was to control the president or influence the president, or even manipulate the president because they had to in order to serve the national interest. Susie just takes the diametrically opposed viewpoint, which is that she's a facilitator, that the American people have elected Donald Trump, and her job is to actually facilitate his vision and to make his vision come to life. It's been a busy year. Trump and his team have expanded the limits of presidential power, unilaterally declared war on drug cartels, imposed tariffs according to whim, sealed the southern border, achieved a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. Ceasefire with an asterisk there if we're being real, but sure, ceasefire. And pressured NATO allies into increasing their defense spending. Calling JD Vance the heir apparent is very funny because no, not even. I think that's a joke. You're funny. You're funny. If you think JD Vance is gonna be the heir apparent, you're funny. Does anybody think JD Vance is gonna be the next president? Like, actually. 100%. Real talk here. Does anybody think JD Vance is going to be the next president of the United States of America? Because I don't even think Trump thinks that. Once a fierce critic of Trump who could be America's Hitler, Vance said in 2016. He did say that. The vice president is now his highest ranking acolyte, a 180-degree transformation that Wiles calls sort of political. In the wake of his friend Charlie Kirk's assassination, Vance spoke of the festering violence on the far left, helping fuel Trump's campaign of revenge and retribution against political enemies. A conspiracy theorist for a decade, according to Wiles, Vance keeps a close eye on the views of younger voters. That's interesting. That's actually really interesting. That doesn't surprise me, but that's interesting that he's sort of tasked with keeping an eye on the younger voters. That explains a lot of like the things that he ends up talking about and the way he ends up talking about things. So it talks about Trump waging war on his political enemies, January 6 pardons. He's redefined the way presidents behave, verbally abusing women, minorities, and almost anyone who offends him. Charlie Kirk's assassination in September turbocharged Trump's campaign of revenge and retribution. Critics have compared this moment to a Reichstag fire, a modern version of Hitler's exploitation of the torching of Berlin's parliament. Historically, the White House Chief of Staff is the president's gatekeeper, confidant, and executor of his agenda. That often means telling the president hard truths. Upon taking office, Ronald Reagan was hell-bent on reforming Social Security. James A. Baker III explained to him that cutting Social Security benefits was the third rail of American politics. Reagan pivoted to tax cuts and was ultimately reelected in a landslide. So you're the one to blame. I mean, it's not like I think cutting Social Security is a better way to go here, by the way. I just hate Reagan. I just hate Reagan. Donald Rumsfeld, Gerald Ford's chief. Woo, our one Michigan president. Represent. Represent, Ford. The White House Chief of Staff is the one person besides his wife who can look him right in the eye and say, this is not right, you simply can't go down that road. And yet, I don't know how much she's actually done that. I mean, if this article is to be believed, then she's done it a bit, but there's even times when she herself has been like, I'm not touching that. So even she kind of knows that there's a line not to cross when it comes to Trump. Talks about her childhood. She grew up around football people. I don't really have much interest in talking about that, but I did think it was interesting how there's this sort of like shared, not history, but like closeness that they feel, having both come up in like the similar like New York lifestyle, from what I can tell. But at the same time, ugh. Her father was an alcoholic, which she says has helped her deal with Trump. Lot of stuff here. Day 1, January 20th, 2025. On Trump's first day in office, the president signed a flurry of executive orders, 26 in all, withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement, rescinding birthright citizenship, sending troops to the southern border, freezing foreign aid, and stopping federal hiring. Then the pardons. Did she ever ask the president, wait a minute, do you really want to pardon all 1,500 January 6 convicts, or should we be more selective? I did exactly that, Wiles replied. I said I am on board with the people that were happenstancers or didn't do anything violent, and we certainly know that everybody did, and we certainly know what everybody did because the FBI has done such an incredible job. Trump has said his FBI investigators were corrupt and part of a deep state. But Trump argued that even the violent offenders had been unfairly treated. Wiles explained, in every case of the ones he was looking at, in every case they had already served more time than the sentencing guidelines would have suggested. So given that, I sort of got on board. Okay. According to court records, many of the January 6 rioters pardoned by Trump had received sentences that were lighter than the guidelines. There have been a couple of times where I've been outvoted, Wiles said, and if there's a tie, he wins. So I want to know, what are the times that she won? If we're looking at the times where she lost, that being pardoning the January 6 rioters, that kind of thing, what were the times when she actually won, where she actually managed to hold him back? I'm really curious. I really want to know. Okay. In the West Wing, Wiles is surrounded by young MAGA men. She is a go-to-church every Sunday, uses a swear word very, very rarely person, said James Blair, Wiles' 36-year-old deputy chief of staff. She doesn't raise her voice, but she likes being around junkyard dogs. Indeed, Wiles has seemed content to let her pit bulls, deputy chiefs of staff Miller, Blair, and Dan Scavino, run loose as she watches. During Oval Office events, Wiles almost always sits just off camera. There's the president, and then there's whoever the three high-ranking people are on the sofa, she said, and then there's a chair at the corner of the sofa, which is my chair, which means I'm the one that gets hit in the head with the boom mic. Okay. Maybe they can hit you a little bit harder next time, smack some sense into you. For all the chaos in the cabinet, Wiles has kept palace intrigue and shivving to a minimum in the White House. Trump has empowered her. When Wiles weighs in, everyone knows she is speaking for him. She has in turn empowered her team, Blair, Miller, Scavino, and Taylor Budowich, who departed in September. Another picture of her looking absolutely terrifying. Like, I'm sorry, she just looks like she's about to throw you in, like, a prison or something. Like, she's about to throw you in the dungeon and lock away the key, bro. Like, I don't know. This is a Harry Potter character. Like, what are we doing? She looks kind of British. I'll give her that. First and foremost, she brings no ego, says Blair, and that is the starting point from which just an immense amount of power flows. There's so much ego and testosterone around her, there wouldn't be any room for hers anyway. Talking about her and Elon Musk. He is a complete solo actor. The challenge with Elon is keeping up with him. He's an avowed ketamine user and he sleeps in a sleeping bag in the executive office building in the daytime. And he's an odd duck, as I think geniuses are. You know, it's not helpful, but he is his own person. Musk triggered the first true crisis of the Trump presidency and an early test for Wiles. Trump's chief was shocked when the SpaceX founder eviscerated USAID, the United States Agency for International Development. I was initially aghast, Wiles told me, because I think that anybody that pays attention to government and has ever paid attention to USAID, as I did, that they do very good work. In his executive order freezing foreign aid, Trump had decreed that life-saving programs would be spared. Instead, they were shuttered. When Elon said, "We're doing this," he was already into it, said Wiles, and that's probably because he knew it would be horrifying to others. But he decided that it was a better approach to shut it down, fire everybody, shut them out, and then go rebuild. Not the way I would do it. And yet, you guys let him do it anyways. Like, why are we acting like you guys didn't have the power to stop it? You chose not to stop it. In his executive order freezing foreign aid, Trump had decreed that life-saving programs would be spared. I already read that. Wiles knew that fixing this was on her. The president doesn't know and never will, she told me. He doesn't know the details of these smallish agencies. What do you mean he doesn't know the details? He's the president. What do you mean he doesn't know the details? Wait, what? That's an odd thing to say. I mean, it's not an odd thing to say. It's what I expected. But it is kind of an odd thing to just say out loud. Oh, the president doesn't know the details of these smaller departments, these smaller agencies. That's okay. Wiles says she called Musk on the carpet. You can't just lock people out of their offices, she recalls telling him. At first, Wiles didn't grasp the effect that slashing USAID programs would have on humanitarian aid. I didn't know a lot about the extent of their grant making, but with immunizations halted in Africa, lives would be lost. Soon she was getting frantic calls from relief agency heads and former government officials with a dire message: thousands of lives were in the balance. Wiles continued: so Marco is on his way to Panama. We call him and say, "Your Senate confirmed. You're going to have to be the custodian, essentially, of U.S. aid." Okay, he says. But Musk forged ahead, all throttle, no brake. Elon's attitude is you have to get it done fast. If you're an incrementalist, you just won't get your rocket to the moon, Wiles said. And so, with that attitude, you're going to break some China, but no rational person could think the USA process was a good one. Nobody. I feel like saying this before Trump is even out of office is kind of a crazy thing to say, right? Like, maybe I'm just stuck in the old ways, maybe I'm stuck in the past, but saying that his administration's handling of the US aid crisis, I guess if you want to call it, is saying that it was atrocious, abhorrent, and just awful in general before Trump is even out of office. That reflects poorly on him. Like, that doesn't look good for him. It doesn't look good for any of you, but it really doesn't look good for him. Which is why I feel like there's something weird here. Like, I don't want to, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am not by any stretch of the imagination. But it feels weird to me that she said all of this because she's the competent one. She's supposed to know how to move the chess pieces so as not to piss off Trump, and yet here we are. So either she feels like this won't piss off Trump, or there's something that, like, we're not privy to that's happening, or there's something that, like, we don't have the information for, because I don't understand. I don't understand if there was another angle here, if there was another goal, or what, but it really does feel like there has to be something, because, okay, this just makes it look really bad. The shuttering of US aid crippled the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief. Depends on USA grants, etc., etc. Oh, there he is. There's the boy himself. Look at this loser. Oh, man. These, like, long shots are not doing them any favors either, I feel like. These, like, full body shots. Oh, Bush himself had gotten wind of gutting of PEPFAR. He called Rubio to express alarm, according to a former aide close to Bush. He's been appalled by Trump from the beginning, and he's determined not to weigh in, the aide said, but Musk's attack on his legacy achievements was too much. Bush said that person cares deeply about the PEPFAR program. That and wounded warriors are the two things where he will weigh in, not publicly, but with intention. Did Rubio have any regrets about the untold number of lives that PEPFAR's evisceration might cost? No, first of all, whoever says that, it's just not being accurate, he told me. We are not eviscerating PEPFAR, blah, 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 blah. Rearranged and reorganized in such a way that we're now going to be able to deliver aid in a way that has a goal. The goal is to help countries become self-sustaining, etc., etc., etc. Why isn't China paying for more immunizations? Why isn't the UK or Canada or any of the G7 countries? When I repeated Rubio's comments to a former GOP White House chief of staff, he remarked, I find that immoral. I guess that's one way to put it. Immoral? Is it just immoral? I feel like it's probably a little bit more than immoral, but, you know. What do I know? Oh, jeez. Okay. Uh, Wiles has helped pick a cabinet of MAGA hardliners: Hegseth, Patel, Ratcliffe, Bondi, Gabbard, Nome. Wiles calls them a world-class cabinet, better than anything I could have conceived of. Okay. Trump's cabinet members are either one of the least qualified presidential teams in history or, to hear Wiles tell it, disruptors. The only people with the balls to take on an entrenched deep state. Oh, God, dude. People talk about the deep state being at the State Department, Wiles said. It's not. It's the military-industrial complex. Hegseth, in her view, is just the guy to take on the powers that be. What? Like, I don't even necessarily disagree about military-industrial complex, but, like, Hegseth? You know what? Maybe her judgment isn't as good as I thought it was. She referred to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., another world-class disruptor, as my Bobby and quirky Bobby. Oh my god, dude. Quirky Bobby, who's in charge of the country's health. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. In Wiles' view, RFK Jr.'s shock treatment of HHS is warranted. I hate it because we have like people who actually know him who have said that this man literally takes like sources that are like unverified and he will just believe them. Like he literally will just believe like random sources people give him as long as like it lines up with what he already kind of has a preconceived notion of, and it's just like, oh, okay. Oh man. Oh, and this loser. They're all losers, but some of them, man. Oh, this is the Kilmar Abrego Garcia stuff, I guess. When they admitted that they had deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia by mistake. I will concede that we've got to look harder at our process for deportations, Wiles told me at the time. See, it's so interesting that like some of the stuff was said at the time, and it's like, what has actually changed? Nothing. So how much power does Susie Wiles really have? Maybe this is just confirming that Susie Wiles actually doesn't have nearly as much power as we thought she did. Because it doesn't seem like she's actually been able to. I don't know, maybe she has been able to hold Trump back in a significant way, and we just haven't seen it because we don't know what the outcome would have been. But I mean, if this is holding him back, can we hold him back a little bit more? Like, can we push it just a little bit more? I don't know. I don't think this is it. Um. Oh man. If somebody is a known gang member who has a criminal past and you're sure and you can demonstrate it, it's probably fine to send them to El Salvador or whatever. Oh. I just I just don't I just don't understand. I'm going to be completely honest. 100%. Not holding anything back here. On a personal level, I do not understand this level of dehumanization and this almost casual level of dehumanization that people engage in on a day-to-day basis now. But even this stuff, like racism and that kind of thing, is always been there. It's always played its part. But I feel like we've gotten to a weird new level of like just casually dehumanizing people on a daily basis and then just being okay with these bad things happening to them. And it's like, what is going on? Are we do we not do we not have like compassion anymore? Do we not have any sort of shame? Anything? No? Okay. Um but if there's a question, I think our process has to lean towards a double check. Yeah, yeah. Ah, real hard line stance you're taking there, Susie. I think we should maybe be more careful about sending brown people to prisons in the middle of El Salvador. Jesus Christ, dude. Not long after the El Salvador deportation fiasco in Louisiana, ICE agents arrested and deported two mothers along with their children. The children were U.S. citizens, and the 4-year-old was being treated for stage 4 cancer. Wiles couldn't explain it. It could be an overzealous Border Patrol agent, I don't know, she said of the case, in which both mothers had reportedly been arrested after voluntarily attending routine immigration meetings. I can't understand how you make that mistake, but somebody did. You're so casual about it. Like, yeah, somebody made that mistake you can't understand, and it happened under the Trump administration. Like, do they just not view these things as the serious things that they are? Is that it? Because I mean, I understand that they don't give a fuck, but do they also just not recognize that these are kind of serious things you're doing? You're kind of you're kind of doing some bad things, some really shitty things that you're not supposed to do. I know you don't care, but do you at least recognize that there's some weight here, that this is the kind of shit that would get you in trouble under normal circumstances? uh, um, so much thinking out loud is what I would call it, said Wiles of Trump's chaotic tariff rollout. There was a huge disagreement over whether tariffs were a good idea. Trump's advisors were sharply divided, some believing tariffs were oh god, fuck that word, and others predicting disaster. Wiles told them to get with Trump's program. I said, this is where we're going to end up, so figure out how you can work into what he's already thinking. Well, they couldn't get there. Wiles recruited Vance to help tap the brakes. We told Donald Trump, hey, let's not talk about tariffs today. Let's wait until we have the team in complete unity and then we'll do it, she said. But Trump barreled ahead, announcing sweeping reciprocal tariffs from 10 to 100%, which triggered panic in the bond market and the sell-off of stocks. Trump paused his policy for 90 days, but by the time the president helter-skelter levies, hello, how's it going? We're going through Susie Wiles' article here. Oh, taco chant. Trump always chickens out. Okay. Wiles believed a middle ground on tariffs would ultimately succeed, she said, but it's been more painful than I expected. At the time this article went to press, shortly before December holidays, a Harvard poll showed 56% of voters think Trump's tariff policies have harmed the economy. 56%. I feel like. Is that lower or higher than I expected it to be? I don't know. Honestly, I think it's higher than I expected it to be. I didn't think that many people were thinking about tariffs, to be honest with you. August 14th, 2025, day 207. During the summer, Trump ordered the National Guard into 4 Democratic-led cities. Uh, this was a vitamin boost of ICE of the National Guard. Yeah. Um, Guard of the Park Service Police, who actually have more authority than the DC Metro Police, Wiles said. And the idea was to right the ship and then slowly back off, and that's what we're doing. Critics denounced the deployment as unconstitutional, performative, and ineffective, and many feared Trump had another, more sinister plan up his sleeve. Yeah, I still think he does. I don't think he's completely given up on that. Will the president use the military to suppress or even prevent voting during the midterms and beyond? I say it is categorically false, will not happen, it's just wrong headed, she snapped. I mean, I don't know if I can believe her. she's already said things in this article where she has been like having one opinion and then Trump ends up winning out because he's the fucking president. And she ends up on the oh well I tried side. So she may think it's not gonna happen, but at this point I wouldn't put it past the man. Do you understand where people who think that are coming from? I asked. I do a little bit, but not fully. I mean, I think they hate the president. They think he's too wrapped up in what happened in 2020. He's literally doing like retribution shit. The president and his team were pushing almost every legal and constitutional boundary and defying courts to stop them. But would Trump obey the Supreme Court? Do you think he will adhere to whatever the courts decide in the end? I asked Wiles. I do, she replied. But Wiles made a prediction. The smart lawyers around us think that we will be slowed down, as we already have been, but we will ultimately prevail. We've got part 2. Hold on. Gotta use the... There we go. Susie Wiles talks Epstein files, Pete Hegseth's war, tactics, retribution, and more. The day I met Wiles at the White House was a watershed for Trump. Voters would choose governors in New Jersey and Virginia and a new mayor in New York City. This is in November. They would also vote on Proposition 50, California Governor Gavin Newsom's proposal to counter a brazen Republican gerrymander in Texas. Collectively, the contests were a referendum on Trump's second presidency. Over lunch in her West Wing corner office, Wiles recounted the morning, escorting Trump from the White House residence to the Oval Office. She gave the president her election predictions. I'm on the hook because he thinks I'm a clairvoyant, Wiles thought the GOP had a chance of electing the governor in New Jersey, but she knew they were in for a tough night. It would prove to be a Republican disaster with Democrats running the table on the marquee races, passing Proposition 50, and winning down ballot elections in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Mississippi. Given voters' anxiety, why did why did why did they use this picture of Caroline? She looks like she's oh my god, why is it this like close up. What? What? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Caroline Leavitt is very interesting to me. Uh, I find her life to be so stupid and fascinating, and I don't understand how this person who is basically the same age as me has ended up in this position. It baffles my brain. But what? I'm sorry, this picture. I gotta read this, and this picture is just staring me right in the face. Uh, Caroline Leavitt, the mouthpiece. The combative White House press secretary fields questions from the press corps with all the subtleties of a Rottweiler. Wiles calls her a scary good communicator, right up there with New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Ooh, I'm gonna be real with you. I think Mamdani's got quite a bit on Caroline. Because Caroline, I can still tell when she's lying. You know, I can still tell when she's trying to force her way through some bullshit. And to me, that says someone who's not the best communicator. I shouldn't be able to tell that you're lying or that you're trying to force down like some bullshit, you know? Like you're trying to make me eat some bullshit. I shouldn't be able to realize that if you're a scary good communicator. That shouldn't be happening. But that's just my critique. It's fine. She's young. She's in her 20s. What do you expect? I say this as someone who is also in her 20s and would also be terrible in this position. So, like, I'll say she's doing a better job than I probably would as press secretary, but she hasn't quite mastered the not not appearing like she's lying part. This stupid picture. Okay. Um the president doesn't give a crap if you're a man or a woman, Leavitt says. He just wants you to be good at your job. How's she faring in the onslaught of questions about the Epstein files after Trump's about face? It's pretty clear he wants to be aggressively offensive when it comes to this issue. Oh my god. Not far from where we sat was a gaping hole where the East Wing had been until just days before. I asked her about the fierce criticism that followed its demolition to make way for Trump's 90,000 square foot ballroom. Were you surprised by it? No, Wiles replied. Oh no, and I think you'll have to judge it by its totality because you only know a little bit of what he's planning. Was she saying Trump was planning more, as yet undisclosed renovations? I'm not telling. You, bitch, you can't do that. The fuck? I'm not telling. I've got a secret. I've got a secret. You can't do that. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. Okay, fine. Uh T minus 232 days, June 2nd, 2024. Um, would you declassify the Epstein files? Da 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 da. For many Trump's followers, it's an article of faith that the US government has long been run by an elite cabal of pedophiles. Less conspiratorially, but no less seriously, others question whether politicians and powerful people either participated in or knew about Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking of young women, from his posh Manhattan townhouse to his private Caribbean islands. Perhaps most critical to Trump followers, though, is the fact that Trump indicated a willingness to release the files and didn't. As this article went to press, grand jury material from the Epstein records was due to be released in December. Wiles told me she underestimated the potency of the scandal. I don't know how. I don't know how. You guys built your base out of the most like conspiracy-minded people. And then you have just the average person who's already a little conspiracy-minded. So, of course, they latched on to something like the Epstein files. Uh, whether he was an American CIA asset, a Mossad asset, whether all these rich, important men went to that nasty island and did unforgivable things to young girls, she said. I mean, I kind of knew it, but it's never anything I paid a bit of attention to. In February, Bondi gave binders labeled the Epstein Files Phase 1 to a group of conservative social media influencers. That was a moment. That was a fucking moment. That was the dumbest shit ever, because you had these losers coming out of the White House holding these binders, grinning ear to ear, with the Epstein Files written bold in letters on them. Like, do you even consider what you are holding in your hands? Like, if you actually had been given the Epstein Files and been given something tangible here, have a little decorum, have a little respect. Like, we're talking about child victims here. And you're just like, oh, look at what I got. I got the Epstein Files. Alright, man. Alright. Um, lists off a bunch of the people who were there. The binders turned out to the binders turned out to contain nothing but old information. I think she completely whiffed on appreciating that was the very targeted group that cared about this. Wiles said of Bondi. First, she gave them binders full of nothingness, and then she said that the witness list or the client list was on her desk. There is no client list, and it sure as hell wasn't on her desk. Oh. Oh. Well, would you look at that? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Um, talking about them going through the Epstein files. They were looking for. Many observers assumed they were looking for Trump's name. I don't know how many agents looked through things, but it was a lot. And Wiles said they were looking for 25 things, not one thing. Well, what were the 25 things? wait, wait a minute. Wiles told me she'd read what she calls the Epstein file, and she said Trump is in the file, and we know he's in the file, and he's not in the file doing anything awful. Wiles said that Trump was on Epstein's plane, he's on the manifest, they were, sort of young, single, whatever. I know it's a passe word, but sort of young, single playboys together. Trump started dating Melania Naus, whom he married in 2005, sometime in 1998. Virginia Giuffre, Epstein's most prominent accuser, who died by suicide earlier this year, first met Epstein while she was a Mar-a-Lago spa worker in 2000. Trump and Epstein reportedly had a falling out in 2004. Trump has claimed without evidence that Bill Clinton visited Epstein's infamous private island, Little St. James, supposedly 28 times. There is no evidence those visits happened, according to Wiles. As for whether there was anything incriminating about Clinton in the files, the president was wrong about that. Okay. The people that really appreciated what a big deal this are, the people that really appreciated what a big deal this is are Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, she said, because they lived in that world, and the vice president, who's been a conspiracy theorist for years, Kash has been saying, got to release the files, and he's been saying that with the view of what he thought was in these files. That turns out not to be right. Marco Rubio, the Hawk, a double threat, both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, the first since Henry Kissinger. Rubio takes a hard line against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. and a softer line against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Infer what you will from the gator skull he keeps on display. I think the president is losing his patience through the process, Rubio says of administration talks with Putin to end the Ukraine war. He's given Putin every opportunity to get to yes, but so far Putin has not taken that. In July, Todd Blanche, they're talking about Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. They asked Wiles about Ghislaine Maxwell's prison sentence. It's not typical, is it, to send the number 2 guy in the DOJ and the president's former defense lawyer to interview a convicted sex trafficker? It was Blanche's suggestion. Wiles said that neither she nor Trump had been consulted about Maxwell's transfer to a less restrictive facility after Blanche's visit. The president was ticked, according to Wiles. The president was mighty unhappy. I don't know why they moved her, neither does the president. But she said, if that's an important point, I can find out. At press time, Wiles said she still had not found out. So, that to me kind of just says that maybe you guys did want her moved, and you just don't want to admit it. Because if there was somebody to throw under the bus there, I think they would have just thrown them under the bus. Like, they can just say, oh, this random person decided that she should be moved and say that's it. But I think what happened was Trump and his administration were like, let's move her. And then by the time it got around to talking about that, they were like, well, we don't want to actually make it super clear that we wanted to do that because it's literally protecting a pedophile. Like, I just combined the word predator and pedophile, but you get the point. She is, in fact, both of those things. What about the birthday greeting featuring a sketch of a nude woman, which, according to the Wall Street Journal, bore Trump's name and was sent to Epstein for his 50th birthday? That letter is not his, Wiles said, and nothing about it rings true to me, nor does it to the people that have known the president a lot longer than I have. I can't explain the Wall Street Journal, but we're going to get some discovery because we sued them. So we're going to find out. So will the president sit for deposition in that process? I mean, if he had to. The Epstein Files debacle poses a dire political threat to Trump and the future of the GOP. The people that are inordinately interested in Epstein are the new members of the Trump coalition, the people that I think about all the time because I want to make sure that they are not Trump voters, they're Republican voters. Wiles said, it's the Joe Rogan listeners. It's the people that are sort of new to our world. It's not the MAGA base. A senior White House official described the mindset of an overlapping block of voters who are angered by both Trump's handling of the Epstein files and the war in Gaza. It's as much as 5% of the vote and includes union members, the podcast crowd, the young people, the young black males. They are interested in Epstein, and they are the people that are disturbed that we are as cozy with Israel as we are. Vance keeps his eyes on the voters. It's Epstein, Gaza, and the coziness with Israel, said this White House source. If you dive deeply into the internet, you'll find things that say, well, why don't we just put Bibi in the Resolute? Just put Bibi at the Resolute desk. I mean, the source said, referring to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Across our year of conversation, Wiles wanted to put an end to what she believed is a persistent myth that Trump is a warmonger. To the contrary, Wiles says, the president genuinely cares about ending wars and saving human lives. I cannot overstate how much his ongoing motivation is to stop the killing, which is not, I don't think, where he was in his last term, she said. Not that he wanted to kill people necessarily, but stopping the killing wasn't his first thought. It's his first and last thought now. Whether that thought is genuine or driven by his desire for a Nobel Peace Prize is of course open to debate. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Nobel Peace Prize if I'm being honest with you. Day 213, August 20th, 2025. In early October, Trump announced that his envoys had brokered a deal with mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey to end 2 years of bloodshed in Gaza. The 20-point plan, calling for the disarmament of Hamas and the administering of Gaza by a multinational force, was far from a sure thing, and it's a bogus fucking deal if we're being real, but I'm not gonna get into that. But the ceasefire and the release of almost all the hostages, the remains of one are still missing, was a considerable achievement. During his triumphant appearance at Israel's Knesset, Trump struck a bellicose tone, praising Netanyahu and the Israeli armed forces with no mention of the Palestinian civilian casualties. Shocker. Trump had previously lauded Bibi's efforts in another action by calling him a war hero, a remark partially aimed at Israelis. Talking about it then, Wiles winced. I'm not sure he fully realizes, she said, that there's an audience here that doesn't love it. When I asked her last fall what she thought Trump's greatest achievement had been in 2025, Wiles was upbeat. I think the country is beginning to see that he's proud to be an agent of peace. I think that surprises people. Doesn't surprise me, but it doesn't fit the Donald Trump people think they know. I think this legislation, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, which funded the entire domestic agenda, is a huge accomplishment. Fuck the One Big Beautiful Bill. I'm literally in the process of possibly losing Snap at this point because of the One Big Beautiful Bill, so fuck you. Fuck off. Also in the process of possibly losing my fucking health insurance, so fuck you. Fuck off. Like, when I tell you, I got that letter from fucking Snap about the work requirements and shit, and I literally started to see Mike Johnson's face and just was seeing red. Like, I thought I was gonna snap. Nope, no pun intended. That was not meant to be a pun. And even though it isn't popular in total, the component parts of it are, and that will be a very big deal in the midterms. Blah blah blah. Yeah, as people start to lose their fucking Snap and their Medicaid, I'm sure they'll feel real great about that. Okay, now we're on to the Venezuela strikes, which is literally just war crimes. Like, are they war crimes? Because are we at war? It's just crimes. It's just murder. During my first visit with Wiles at the White House in November, Trump's revenge tour against his domestic enemies was in full swing. So was his lethal campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who Trump was convinced headed a powerful drug cartel. Over lunch, Wiles told me about Trump's Venezuela strategy. He wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle, and people way smarter than me on that say that he will. Wiles' statement appears to contradict the administration's official stance that blowing up boats is about drug interdiction, not regime change. Yeah, she said so much shit in this, dude. I don't even... Like, what were you thinking? That's, again, I don't want to be like a conspiracy person, but it just feels too like all the pieces are kind of, there, but it just feels like there's something weird here. Like, why are you doing this? Why did you feel the need to do this interview and do all of this? It's like, is something going on? Is this a distraction? Like, what's happening? Oh, dude, what is going on? I already pressed Wiles in the Trump practice of blowing boats out of the water. The casualties almost certainly included unsuspecting fishermen. In 2016, Trump had famously mused that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any supporters. Now he seemed to be testing that idea on the global stage. When a critic on X denounced these killings as war crimes, fans posted, "I don't give a shit what you call it." Pressed at an October press conference on why he didn't just ask Congress for a declaration of war, Trump swatted the question away. "I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country, okay?" Oh, it's so fucking sick, dude. It's like, It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I asked Wiles, what do you say to people who think, doesn't anybody in this administration have a heart? Wiles didn't mince words. The president believes in harsh penalties for drug dealers, as he said many, many times. These are not fishing boats, as some would like to allege. The boats, she argued, carried drugs. Eliminating them saves lives. The president says 25,000. I don't know what the number is, but he views those lives as life saves, not people killed. I don't believe you. I don't believe you when you say that they're not fucking fishing boats. Like, you've provided no real evidence to support your claim here. As of this article's publication, at least 87 people had been killed in U.S. strikes. 87 people, dude. 87 people have been killed in U.S. strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. The Washington Post reported that Hegseth had directed the U.S. military to kill everybody in a strike on a boat. This was followed by a second strike that killed 2 survivors. A possible war crime. Hegseth said an admiral was responsible for the second strike. Congressional Democrats and even some Republicans were talking about calling hearings to investigate the matter. Drug smuggling, I pointed out to Wiles, is not a death penalty offense, even if the president wishes it were. No, it's not. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that this is a war on drugs. It's unlike another one that we've seen, but that's what this is. Obviously, it's a war declared only by the president and without any congressional approval, I said. Don't need it yet, Wiles replied. We're very sure we know who we're blowing up, she told me during lunch in November. One of the great untold stories of the U.S. government is the talents of the CIA. Okay. And there may be an interest in going inside territorial waters, which we have permission to do because they're skirting the coastline to avoid getting caught. But Wiles conceded that attacking targets on Venezuela's mainland would force Trump to get congressional approval. If he were to authorize some activity on land, then it's war. Then we'd need Congress. But Marco and JD, to some extent, are up on the Hill every day briefing. In October, I asked Rubio what legal authority the administration had to conduct its lethal strikes. Obviously, that's a DoD, Department of Defense operation, he replied. So I'm not in any way disavowing it. I agree with it 100%. I think we're on very strong, firm footing, but I don't want to be giving legal answers on behalf of the White House or the Department of War. The Secretary of State was unequivocal about the targets of the U.S. strikes. These are not alleged drug dealers, he said. These are drug dealers. Where are the YouTube videos of the family saying, my poor innocent fisherman's son, was killed? Is he implying that because we haven't seen videos from these family members that it didn't happen? I believe there have been... I don't know. I don't want to say that and be wrong. I was going to say, I think there have possibly been some reports of people talking about people in these strikes, but I don't know what they've said, so I don't want to put that out there. But I do think there have been people questioned in regards to these boats, not from America. Day 40, February 28th, 2025. Trump, Vance, and Zelensky get into heated exchange during Oval Office meeting. I asked Wiles what she makes of the president's affinity for Russian President Vladimir Putin, who seems to have cast a spell over Trump since he first ran for president in 2018. In 2018, the leaders met in Finland, where Trump appeared to side with Putin when asked whether he believed him about Moscow's non-interference in the 2016 election. Watching it at a distance in Helsinki, she recalled, I thought there was a real sort of friendship there, or at least an admiration. But on the phone calls that we've had with Putin, it's been very mixed. Some of them have been friendly and some of them not. Vance, Rubio, and Steve Witkoff, Trump's... Oh, okay, they got a better picture of Caroline here, guys. See, why did they do her like that? Like, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think Caroline's like an ugly person. I'm not gonna sit here and like hype her up too much, but I think this red looks nice on her. I think her hair looks nice here. She's got a little bit of like the pout going on, which is you know, here or there, but whatever. But why did they hit her with this earlier? Why couldn't they just use this picture? Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry. Um oh god, what is all this? They're talking about Putin. Vance Rubio and Steve Witkoff, Trump's all-purpose special envoy, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, an informal advisor, have been running Trump's foreign policy since the departure of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who was moved to UN ambassador after Signalgate. I am not horrified by it, Wiles said of the infamous unsecured chat about U.S. attack plans against the Houthis, to which the Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg was mistakenly admitted. She noted with an edge, the burden's on us to make sure that national security conversations are preserved. In this case, Jeff Goldberg did it for us. You guys weren't, but you guys weren't preserving it. It was on Signal. Okay. Wiles said she saw trouble brewing before Trump's infamous Oval Office scrum with Vladimir Zelensky last February, when the president and Vance berated Ukraine leaders berated Ukraine blah blah blah. And Vance berated Ukraine's leader on worldwide television. If we had to do it over, Wiles said, I wouldn't have cameras because it was going to end that way. Wiles claims the ugly spectacle was the culmination of churlish, behind-the-scenes behavior by Zelensky and his entourage. It began with Zelensky failing to show up for a meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent when he visited Kiev to make a deal on mineral rights, and escalated. It just was a sort of bad sentiment all the way around, and I wouldn't say JD snapped because he's too controlled for that, but I think he just had enough. Yeah, he's a fucking baby. That's what happened, okay? JD Vance is a fucking baby, and he wants Trump to love him. I don't know if his dad didn't love him enough as a kid. I don't actually know. I don't know. I know his mom was an addict. I don't know anything about his dad. The Trump-Putin relationship has zigged and zagged in the walk-up to the August summit with Putin in Alaska. Trump had publicly sought a ceasefire in Ukraine. It seemed he was finally getting tough with Putin, but in fact, Trump gave up on a ceasefire before the Anchorage meeting began. Trump's team was divided on whether Putin's goal was anything less than a complete Russian takeover of Ukraine. The experts think that he could get the rest of Donetsk, then he would be happy. Wiles told me in August, but privately, Trump wasn't buying it. He didn't believe Putin wanted peace. Donald Trump thinks he wants the whole country, Wiles told me. In October, I asked Rubio if that was true. There are offers on the table right now to basically stop this war at its current lines of contact, okay? He said, which include substantial parts of Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, which they've controlled since 2014, and the Russians continue to turn it down. And so you do start to wonder, well, maybe what this guy wants is the entire country. In Wiles' office, a photograph of Trump and Putin standing together, signed by Trump, to Susie, you are the greatest, Donald. Okay. I asked Wiles about the remarkable 180-degree conversion of the Secretary of State and the Vice President from fierce Trump critics to high-ranking acolytes, and heirs apparent. Trump has floated a Vance-Rubio GOP presidential ticket in 2028. Rubio's transformation was ideological and principled, she said. Marco was not the sort of person that would violate his principles. He just won't, and so he had to get there. By contrast, she suggested Vance had other motivations. His conversion came when he was running for the Senate, and I think his conversion was a little bit more sort of political. During another visit to the White House on November 13th, when I asked Vance about his conversion to Trump loyalist, he said, I realized that I actually liked him. I thought he was doing a lot of good things, and I thought that he was fundamentally the right person to save the country. Will Rubio challenge Vance for the top spot? His answer: if J.D. Vance runs for president, he's going to be our nominee, and I'll be one of the first people to support him. Well, he's probably not going to win. Wiles is. How much longer is this? I'm not going to lie to you. Oh, there's so much. There's still a lot left. Okay. Let's rock it through the rest of this because my tongue is getting a little tired. um where were we? The average tenure for a modern White House chief of staff is a year and a half. George W. Bush's Andrew Card holds the record at 5 years and 3 months. Wiles may yet eclipse Trump's so far longest running chief of staff, John Kelly, at 17 months. If she chose to quit, Wiles could make a fortune running the campaign of any number of would-be GOP nominees, though Wiles says she earned around $350,000 for her role managing Trump's 2024 campaign. She was reported to have made millions more through her consulting firm. Wiles had not replied when asked about this by the time of this article went to print. When reports emerged that Biden aide Mike Donnellan stood to make $8 million if his boss had stayed in the race and won, Wiles said her co-campaign chair Chris LaCivita sent her a note that said, "Boy, am I stupid. Why was I so cheap?" Wiles says she'd originally planned to serve as chief for 6 months. I have not had a day I would describe as overwhelming, though there's plenty of frustration here. But you go to bed at night, you say your prayers, and you get up and do it again. About her health of the president. In December, when asked about Trump falling asleep in cabinet meetings, Wiles said, he's not asleep, he's got his eyes closed and his head leaning back, and he's fine. Oh, man. Maybe they're talking about the quiet piggy incident. I don't really care about that. Is Wiles really irreplaceable, as Rubio said? Not patting myself on the back, but just recognizing the reality of this president at this time. She said, I'm just not sure who else could do this. I don't know either, and that's why it's kind of crazy that you went ahead and did this. Will the president run for a third term? No. But he sure is having fun with it. Wiles said he knows it's driving people crazy. So that's why he talks about it. I said, yeah, 100%. Would you say categorically no and that the 22nd Amendment rules out a third term? I do, yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, but based on my readings, it's pretty unequivocal. And has he told you that in so many words? Yes, a couple of times, yeah. I think that's Rubio. I can't tell for sure. And then she went on, sometimes he laments, gosh, I feel like we're doing really well. I wish I could run again. And then he immediately says, not really. I will have served 2 terms and I've gotten done what I need to get done. And it's time to give somebody else a chance. So, any given day, right? But he knows he can't run again. Months earlier, she'd mused on the future of the party and the need for it to turn Trump voters into Republican voters. Donald Trump will be an ex-president, she said, looking ahead, and I'll be gone to do whatever I do next, which hopefully will be nothing. In 2026, midterm elections may determine the fate of Trump's presidency. Vance told me that he hopes to minimize GOP losses in 2026. I think a good midterm election for an incumbent presidency would be to lose a dozen seats in Congress and 2 or 3 seats in the Senate, he said. I think it will be better than that. I asked Wiles for her prediction. We're going to win the midterms, she said crisply. Day 15, February 3rd, 2025. Da, 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 da. Day 309. This is about James Comey and Letitia James. This was one of the moments where she's like basically backed down completely from what I understand. Back in March on the 56th day of Trump's presidency, I asked Wiles, "Do you ever go into Trump and say, 'Look, this is not supposed to be a retribution tour?'" "Yes, I do," she replied. "We have a loose agreement that the score settling will end before the first 90 days are over." In late August, I asked Wiles, "Remember when you said to me months ago that Trump promised to end the revenge and retribution tour after 90 days?" "I don't think he's on a retribution tour," she said. "A governing principle for him is I don't want what happened to me to happen to somebody else, and so people that have done bad things need to get out of the government. In some cases, it may look like retribution, and there may be an element of that from time to time. Who would blame him? Not me. I don't believe Trump gives a fuck about what happens to other people. I think it's 100% just retribution on his part." "So all this talk," I said, "about accusing Letitia James of mortgage fraud, that might be the one retribution," Wiles replied. "So you haven't called him out on that, or said, 'Hey, wait a minute.'" No, not on her," Wiles said. "Not on her. She had $500 million of his money." Wiles laughed. "The massive civil fraud penalty won by the New York Attorney General's office in the case against Trump had just been thrown out by an appeals court. Do you really think that Merrick Garland went after the president, persecuted him?" I'd asked her in March, referring to Biden's button-down, by-the-book attorney general. "I do," she replied, "and I think history will prove it to be so." In November, it was Comey's turn in the dock. "So tell me why the Comey prosecution doesn't just look like the fix is in," I asked her. "I mean, people could think it does look vindictive. I can't tell you why you shouldn't think that," Wiles said of Trump. "I don't think he wakes up thinking about retribution, but when there's an opportunity, he will go for it." I don't think that doesn't really, like, that is the fact that that is your sort of best case scenario, is that I don't think he wakes up hoping to get retribution, but if he has the opportunity, he'll definitely take it. Like, that's not singing his praise, you know? Like, that's not a big, like, win for the administration that your leader is, you know. God damn, dude. Miles told me in March that she had a difficult conversation with Trump every day. "They're over little things, not big," she said. "I hear stories from my predecessors about these seminal moments where you have to go in and tell the president that what he wants to do is unconstitutional or will cost lives. I don't have that." Wiles said Trump has been clear-eyed about what he wanted to do, having not been there for 4 years and having had time to think about it, and therefore she can pick her battles. "So no, I'm not an enabler. I'm also not a bitch. I try to be thoughtful about what I engage in, and I guess time will tell whether I've been effective." Sure. As the 2026 midterm elections approach, the stakes for Trump and his chief of staff couldn't be higher. Trump's second term has been more consequential than his first. He could leave office as a transformational president who sealed the southern border, passed major tax cuts, brought peace to Gaza, and recreated the GOP in his image. Or he could pursue reckless vendettas, shred Democratic guardrails, and end up in the crosshairs of Democrat-led investigations. Either way, Wiles may be the thin line between the president and disaster. As one former GOP chief put it, she may be more consequential than any of us. I think what he meant by that, I told Wiles, is that we've never had a president who governs so much by whim and who depends so much on one person, you. "Oh, good Lord," Wiles said. "Trump doesn't depend on anybody." Oh, boy. All right. All right. That was a lot. Um, I'm still really not sure what she thought would necessarily come of this, but I guess we will see going forward how this plays out. If I had to guess, I don't necessarily think that Trump is going to like get rid of her or anything. I do think she has a lot of staying power in that regard. But I would love to be a fly on the wall when he found out about some of the things she said in this article. Just to, because, like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He tends to hold a grudge, so I think it's weird if he kind of lets this all go, but I don't really know what his other options are other than to let it go. So maybe this will cause tension behind the scenes. I don't know, but I am going to wrap this up because I didn't want this to be a super long stream. I wasn't even sure I was gonna stream tonight, but I did decide to. I'm trying to stream more, and hopefully, this wasn't too bad. I know that there was a video I possibly wanted to look at by Alex Novel. He did a yeah, it was premiering when I went live, but yeah, it's about an hour.
Now look at this fucking vile pig, fucking demon.
Yeah, I'd like to do this, so maybe I'll go live tomorrow or something, and we can do this. But I might go live during the day tomorrow. It might be earlier. I'm not sure. If not, it'll be probably like 9 p.m. Eastern time. But I did want to take a look at this. Ethan Klein's War on Women. Because I've definitely talked about that quite a bit as well. So I'd like to do that. There was one other thing about Susie Wiles, as I think she's out here like denying some of the stuff she said. Hold on. Um, because I think there were like you've got Pete Hegseth. Hold on. You've got Pete Hegseth. This this is what the left does. Trash and smear our best and most effective people. They do it to President Trump daily, and now to Chief Susie Wiles. Susie is the most trusted and most professional and most effective chief of staff of my lifetime. Absolutely nobody better. And you've got fucking a community note on it. Susie Wiles sat down for 11 interviews for this piece. At least some of the verbatim quotes from this interview were recorded. Like, this was like a family, like, having like an awkward Thanksgiving when they got back to the office. Because what the fuck? And they're just like all coming out of the. I shouldn't be scrolling Twitter, just on. This is a dangerous game to play. But there's just so much like. Susie Wiles gave 11 interviews to Vanity Fair, and her combos are recorded. Um, Susie Wiles initially attempted to dispute that she issued certain remarks to Vanity Fair, but the writer of the piece replayed a recording of her comments, making it impossible to deny. Oh my god. Like, And then you've got like all the posts that came out when this dropped. So you've got, is this it? Is this the one? I think this is it. Yeah, you've got Cash Patel. You've got all these people tweeting about it. John Duffy, Linda McMahon. Like, you've got all these people tweeting about Susie, Susie, Susie. We love Susie. Meanwhile, Susie's over here, like, airing out all of their fucking dirty laundry. Susie said, I don't fuck with any of you motherfuckers. I'll give her that. I will give her that. She did not give a fuck about shitting on every last one of these people. Because, my god. Oh my god. And mind you, this is supposed to be the smart woman. This is supposed to be the brains of the operation. This is supposed to be the brains of the operation. And yet here she is. Here she is. Denying things that were literally recorded. Alright. Well, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. We're just gonna wrap this up here. Hold on. I think I got I don't have an end screen. We're just gonna go back to my starting scene screen for right now. I gotta wrap this up. It's getting late here and I got other stuff to do. But thank you for watching the stream. I will probably be back tomorrow with some other stuff and maybe a few games because I do want to just chill out and play some games. So I think that might be what we do tomorrow. We'll maybe watch the video and hopefully I will have enough energy to just hang out and play some games because that'd be fun. So that's for tomorrow though. Thank you so much for watching this if you did, and if you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you for watching. I'm so bad at outros. When I'm editing, I get to take all this out though. Okay, anyway, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna go. Free Palestine, free Sudan, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.